on the pace lap right now. They're being led by Mario Andretti. He's on the pole for today's race at 125.014 miles an hour. The starting lineup has Andretti and Roberto Guerrero in row number 1. Row 2, Bobby Rahal and Danny Sullivan. In the third row, Rick Mears and Jeff Brabham. Fourth row is Al Unser Sr. and Tom Sneva. Fifth row, John Paul Jr. and Michael Andretti. And in row number 6, it's Ed Pym along with Gordon Johncock. Seventh row, Al Holbert and Kevin Cogan. Eighth row, Derek Daly and Jose Legarza. Ninth row, Howdy Holmes, along with Ari Leyendijk. In the 10th row, Al Unser Jr. and Steve Chassie. The 11th row, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. in his first IndyCar appearance. Outside of row number 11, Scott Brayton. 12th row has Chris Neifel and Dick Simon. And in the 13th row, car 31, Dick Ferguson, and number 36, Dennis Firestone. The cars are proceeding down the backstretch at this point, headed for Canada Corner, one of the most dangerous corners on this road course.
It's a 4-mile course. There's a graphic showing you the start-finish line at the top of your screen. They're going uphill there. You can see 11 turns on this course. It winds its way up and downhill through a wooded countryside, right turns, left turns. Of course, a road course always has some very descriptive terms that are a part of its folklore, and here at Road America, there you see in the moraine sweep, you're headed downhill there, the speed trap is there. Hurry Downs, it's another downhill section of the course. The carousel, the fastest turn, the drivers will tell you, the most important place on this racetrack to keep up speed, the long backstretch, and finally back around to the front stretch, some 3,000 feet plus.
If I said Road Atlanta a little bit earlier, I apologize. This is Road America here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and there the cars are warming up on their pace lap. They are proceeding down the fastest part of the course. This is the backstretch. They pass under the Goodrich Bridge and proceed down this long backstretch. This is the one of the longest stretches on the course, and the speeds here will be as high as they will be at any point on the race course.
At the bottom of this particular decline, you get a very sharp corner. You have to turn to the left, you brake hard. As you turn to the left here, you go uphill, and you go up into a series of corners. There are a couple of series of S's you have to go through before you complete one lap. Some hard right-hand turns, some hard left-hand turns. And one of the interesting characteristics about this racetrack, there's actually a stretch of it that's about 3/4 of a mile in length that no spectators ever see. I should say a very few. It's back into the woods. But you at home will see every inch of it on ESPN's broadcast here today.
Pace car continues to lead the field around the course. They've completed their first lap, and we anticipate a green next time around. This front row is a very interesting one. Mario Andretti now has won 5 consecutive pole positions and the 6th on the trail for 1984, but alongside him is Roberto Guerrero, the guy who has really performed as well on the ovals as he has on the road courses this year. However, he is at home on a road course, and we look for great things from Roberto Guerrero, one of the drivers who has jumped from the Formula One ranks to the Indy cars for 1984.
Bobby really has. Roberto has had a great season, and this may be his best chance ever at winning. And I'll tell you, if there's ever a racetrack in the last couple of years at least that has produced surprise winners, it has been here. As you look at turn number 3 now, this is leading on to that moraine sweep. Bob told you a couple minutes ago, the fastest part of the racetrack. You're going downhill and get kind of an arc on it. But this racetrack the last couple of years has produced surprise winners. 2 years ago, Hector Rebaque out of Mexico won here. Attrition was very high, and last year Andretti won. You say, whoa, wait a minute, that's not a surprise, Andretti winning. But he had all sorts of problems. He had a problem with the radio going out. The wastegate was stuck open. He was losing horsepower. And he had a clutch problem. He was actually jamming the car into the correct gears as he went around the race course. Despite all those adversities, Andretti won. So anything can happen here at Elkhart Lake, and it has for the past 2 years.
Cars are moving out of turn number 3 uphill now into this blind corner, and believe me, you can't see a thing. You're headed uphill looking at sky, and all of a sudden, you've got a very sharp left-hand corner to contend with. Out of corner number 4, rather, there is a very short stretch. Here is corner number 5 that the cars are proceeding around right now. This is the area of the course they call the Hurry Downs because it is downhill. They're headed for turn number 6. Pace car now in turn number 6 as the drivers in this race are continuing to warm up those tires and scuff them in, make sure they are up to heat before they take the green flag.
Bob, they're headed toward the carousel right now, which I believe is one of the 2 most dangerous places on this racetrack. You can see this big sweeping corner they're beginning to enter right now. There's an earthen embankment that's on an angle, almost like a high bank dirt racetrack, right above where the cars are right now. Also, you see a piece of wall sticking right out there. You just can't put a wall all the way around a racetrack that's this long. Notice the tree very close to the inside of the track. That'll be a way for you at home to identify the carousel, the very high-speed corner. By the way, the other dangerous part, as I perceive it on this racetrack, is right after you come out of turn number 9, you go underneath the final walkover bridge called the Mitchell Bridge. It's right after a series of S's. There's a drop-off on the right-hand side or the inside of the racetrack when you get there, and you'll see that in just a second.
Actually, this turn number 8 is more or less a flat-out corner. It is referred to in some areas as the kink. It's a high-speed corner that leads them again primarily downhill into Canada Corner, which has produced some very horrendous accidents in the years past. And they are approaching Canada Corner right now. Canada Corner, also known as turn number 9. It's coming up right now. You can identify Canada Corner by that Honda sign, which is located just as the drivers go into Canada Corner number 9.
Okay, turn number 9. Out of turn number 9 into a series of S corners. It's a pretty high-speed turn. You're beginning to go up a little uphill here. There you see the S's. A lockdown camera angle for you right there will give you an idea of the sensation of speed and put you right in the cockpit with these Indianapolis drivers as they smoke around this 4-mile road course. Now, watch for one of those pedestrian bridges. You'll see it coming up on the next shot. There it is. You come out of that pedestrian bridge, and as you make a right-hand turn, there's a lot of rolling hill contour to the road there on the inside. The cars do have a tendency to kind of loll off there, and if you get off on the side of that like a Trans Am car did earlier this week, you can get upside down very easily.
All right, they move through corner number 11 and begin to proceed uphill. There's Ludwig Heimrath Jr., the Canadian, in car number 76, making his first IndyCar appearance here at Road America. And the green flag comes out, and this Provini Veal 200 is underway as passing and jockeying for position begins as they go downhill and into turn number 1. Mario Andretti jumps off into the lead in turn number 1 as the rest of the field proceeds through it. Now down to corner number 2, and Bobby Rahal has already moved into second position, followed by Roberto Guerrero. So Rahal, who we talked about earlier as being one of the favorites here, has already picked up one position in the first 2 corners, but Mario Andretti has the lead as they come down the moraine sweep, headed for a very tight turn. They're braking hard at this point and downshifting, and we have a car spinning. Roberto Guerrero spins and almost is T-boned by the cars behind him. Another car gets off the course.
Like Kevin Kogan. No, looked like Ed Pym. Ed Pym, I think, made contact with somebody. Somebody broke hard in front of him.
Tough break for Ed Pym, who was starting in the 11th position. This was Ed's first ride in this Dubonnet Eagle owned by Dan Gurney, a brand new race car. Ed had great hopes here today. Ed, of course, a graduate of the Super V ranks, has been driving the Jet Engineering car previously this season. This was his first ride, and it's going to be an early out for Ed Pym.
Oh, what a major disappointment for that driver who had such high aspirations for this day.
Well, you can see Roberto Guerrero losing it going into the corner and is nearly T-boned here by Rick Mears.
Hard braking by everybody behind, and apparently somebody stopping in front of Ed Pym, or perhaps Pym missing out on the spin, not being able to see ahead, and perhaps it was Al Hobart whom he made contact with.
Well, you remember that Roberto Guerrero spun at the Indianapolis 500. He also spun at the Michigan 500, but came back from those spins to finish very high up. So spins do not affect Roberto Guerrero very much. The leader is Mario Andretti. He is about to complete lap number 1. Here he is across the finish line. And Bobby Rahal is running in second position, then a long stretch of racetrack before we get back to Danny Sullivan, Rick Mears, Roberto Guerrero, Tom Sneva, John Paul Jr., Michael Andretti, Al Unser Sr., and Jose Garza. That's the way they're running on lap number 1. Mario Andretti from the pole position has jumped out to an early lead. We'll be right back with more from Road America. Cars are on their second lap. This is the way they're running. Mario Andretti, the leader. Bobby Rahal is second. Danny Sullivan, third. Rick Mears, fourth. And Roberto Guerrero is fifth after a spin in turn number 3 on the very first lap. Chris Neifel in car number 72 is also stalled on the course, is out of the car, and the safety crew taking a look at the rear engine of the car to make sure there is no fire there in the engine compartment.
And while we were away, Bob, as we look at Chris Neifel, the 6'6" Indianapolis car driver who just barely fits in the cockpit, Jeff Brabham also darted into the pits under the green flag. We have not gone to a course yellow. Guerrero getting back underway again. Jeff Brabham ducked into the pits briefly, has not lost a lap, but that's not saying much on this track because a lap is one heck of a long ways to go. There, you saw the leader go by. Now here's the second running Bobby Rahal.
Rahal from Dublin, Ohio, driving car number 5, the 711 Red Roof Inns March. There's Mario Andretti in the lead. Rahal pursuing him, as you can see, but Andretti has a pretty good lead at this point. Running in third spot now is Roberto Guerrero as he has moved back up. So Guerrero, who spun early, has moved back up into third place, and that has to say something for the way that car is handling the race.
Bob, we also saw how delicate the touch has to be on these high-powered Indianapolis cars. You're in the vicinity of 650 horsepower or so, and you've got to be very gentle with the touch. If you tromp on the brakes too hard or the accelerator too hard, it gets away from you immediately. By the way, on one of the first 2 laps, Mario Andretti was caught on the marine sweep, coming downhill, looking toward turn 3, where Chris Neifel pulled off at about 185 miles per hour. Fastest part of the race course.
Danny Sullivan and Roberto Guerrero here. There is Danny Sullivan in number 30, the Domino's Pizza Hot One. Danny, of course, winner of the race at Cleveland earlier this year, a race that we televised for you on ESPN. Sullivan in one of the marches, or rather one of the Lolas, that have proven to be very successful in the 1984 season.
Well, as if it wasn't enough that Mario Andretti was faster than everybody in qualifying and everybody recognized that he was the one to beat, he was about a half a second faster than the rest of the field. Guerrero's spin, that man's spin right there after about a third of 1 lap of this race, all it did was give Andretti a chance to get a running start on the field. He clicked off lap number 1 with about a 2.6-second lead, and he picked up 2 seconds on the second running Bobby Rahal in the second lap of the race. Andretti is streaking away. It's a hot day, not a long race. It's a demanding course. Is that the right strategy to make at this moment? You wonder. We've seen a lot of road races, one on ESPN, in the past couple of seasons, by drivers using some type of strategy rather than just charging away at the beginning. But to Andretti's defense, this car has been so superior. Mario's car, which is the sister to that Lola right there on the screen of Danny Sullivan, Andretti's car has been so superior all weekend long, you just got to believe that it feels so good, you have to let it loose.
Pacing yourself is especially important on this course because of its length. In the previous races here, there have been many problems with drivers running out of fuel, and you've got to think that the driver who wins this race today is going to be very careful about getting good gas mileage. Here is second, third, and fourth. There is the 4th place car of Danny Sullivan, car number 30. Bobby Rahal here in second. Right behind him is Roberto Guerrero, and then Danny Sullivan.
So Bobby Rahal checking the mirrors that time as he came down, hurried down to go back and look at Michael Andretti, who right now runs in the number 6 position. Michael has been a regular top 10 racer all year long. He's picked up some positions. He started this race in 10th, and Michael, a man who aspires to be Rookie of the Year this year in the CART PPG World Series of IndyCar Racing, is in a good position.
Michael Andretti did indeed have a rather serious, at least appearing, accident at the Meadowlands near the end of the race, a race that his father won, but Michael Andretti is doing well here in the early stages of the Provimi Field 200.
Michael Andretti, who was so very fast at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this year, everybody expected him to be competitive, but I don't think they really expected him to have enough punch to run up front as he did. You really want to shudder away from calling him a surprise because you knew he was going to do well, but I really do believe that he has exceeded everybody's expectations, and he is an instant bona fide member of this fraternity.
This is the 2nd place battle. Roberto Guerrero trying to make a move on Bobby Rahal, but he cannot do it. Roberto Guerrero has looked good, though, in these early moments of the race. He is looking inside and outside, trying to find the opportunity to pass on this course. Now, this road course As we indicate, it has hills and it has valleys and it has sharp turns. It's also, relatively speaking, wide, so there are opportunities to pass on this course. Guerrero looking for the opportunity to move into second place right now. They're in turn number 3. Here's where Guerrero spun on the very first lap of the race, but has come back nicely since then. It is uphill now to the blind fourth corner.
The drivers will tell you they can pass just about anywhere on this racetrack because just after you go through a series of corners, it seems like a straightaway pops up, and if you hit the apexes proper on those corners, you're in a good position for any of the many straights that are on this particular course. There are actually 4 significant straights and 1 series of slight S's that operate almost as a straightaway, so depending on your point of view, there are 5 straightaways, 4 serious ones, plus this high-speed carousel. A little difficult to pass here because all of the centrifugal force that's pulling on you, and the line is right down on the bottom of the racetrack. But here's one of those straightaways. Let's watch Guerrero. Will he have enough oomph to get around? He's going to try the high side.
Watching Roberto Guerrero and Bobby Rahal battle for second spot. The corner worker displaying the flag to Bobby Rahal, indicating that a driver is at least looking for the opportunity to pass. They run nose to tail through the 10th corner. Now they brake and downshift to turn number 11, come off of it, head uphill to the start-finish line. Bobby Rahal running second, Roberto Guerrero is third, and Danny Sullivan is fourth. The lead continues to be held by Mario Andretti, and there he is. We'll give you an interval here between first and second position. Mario Andretti now moving through turn number 2. Bobby Rahal pokes his nose over the horizon. There's the interval between first and second, and we'll be right back with more of the Provimi Veal 200. We are back at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Mario Andretti continues to lead the Provimi Veal 200, but we have had a change for second position. While we were away, Roberto Guerrero in turn number 9 went to the inside and passed Bobby Rahal.
Well, he dogged him for about 3 laps, and he kept trying to find the right place. Rahal was doing an excellent job just holding his line all the way around the course, and finally Guerrero was able to sneak underneath going into that right-hander. Canada corner, turn number 9. If you just joined us, this is a 4-mile road course.
Let's go down to the pit area. Here's Gary Lee.
And the fact that this track is so long certainly changes the pit strategy. You cannot really take a chance of going out and having the warning light on the fuel come on and coast back in. It just does not happen that way. But we've checked with the top 3 teams, and we're seeing some change in strategy. First of all, Andretti's team says he'll come in about lap 17. Rahal's team will call him about lap 19, and Guerrero should be in about lap 15. So obviously Rahal right now is willing to gamble and stay out a little longer than Andretti or Guerrero.
One of the things that we will be looking for here, the fuel mileage that these guys are getting and when exactly they pit and how much we think they can go without stopping for fuel.
Well, this will be a 50-lap race. Remember, 50 laps times 4 miles around, that's 200 miles. Anybody who goes less than 17 laps on their first pit stop, at least on paper, is not going to look like they can go the distance on 2 stops because you add it up. If you go 15 laps for 1 stop, another 15 laps, that puts you to 30 laps. You've got to stop 1 more time to get all the way to the finish. But if you go 17 laps, that means you go 17, 34, you can go to 51, and theoretically you can make it on just 2 stops. So stopping at lap 15 may be an interesting piece of strategy, but will it give you enough fuel to go to distance on just 1 more pit stop?
Interval between first and second place is just a little bit more than 5 seconds, but Roberto Guerrero is closing in the distance. Derek Daly in car number 17 leading this contingent. It includes Al Unser Sr., Tom Sneva in car number 4.
And Al Unser Jr. Both Daly and Al Unser Jr. have made great jumps from their starting positions. Right now, Daly has the best of this group. He has just gotten around Tom Sneva, and Daly has moved into the number 7 position. Running in 6th is Rick Mears out of the picture. Daly now 7th. Sneva now make that 9th as Al Unser Sr. has moved into 8th position. And now here comes Al Unser Jr. trying to put a move. So the Unsers get around Tom Sneva, the flip-flop of the 1983 Indianapolis 500. And Sneva off into the gravel coming around turn number 3. Now he goes back uphill, leaves some rubber on the race course, and John Paul Jr. also finds the door open on the inside.
Sneva losing positions here. Sneva, of course, embroiled in a verbal confrontation after the Michigan 500 because of the way that he felt he was treated on the race course during the final laps by the eventual winner of the Michigan 500, Mario Andretti. We'll have more on that story later. Here are the father and son combination running together out there. Al Unser Sr. leading his son, Al Unser Jr.
Well, Al Unser Jr. has come from 19th position to now run in 8th, so he has made quite a charge to the front. Remember, he won at Portland earlier this year. He's led just about every one of the road course races for the past couple of seasons, and there is a young man whom you can never count out. Now, we don't really know what to expect from attrition here, but we mentioned at the top of the show, it is a warm day. Plus, this racetrack has gobbled up race cars the past couple of years. All sorts of strange things, all sorts of gremlins have popped up, if you will, in each of the past 2 races, so you just don't know where is the best place to be at this stage of the race. We'll go 50 laps, and right now we are just completing lap number 8.
Eric Daly, car number 17, the Provimi Veal sponsored car. They, of course, also the sponsors of this race. Right behind him, the Miller car driven by Al Unser Sr., number 1, indicating the defending PPG IndyCar World Series champion. He was in 1983. This year, Al Unser Sr. is in 9th position in the point standings. His best finish in 1984 has been a 3rd at the Indianapolis 500. Here is Tom Sneva in the number 4 Texaco March. Tom Sneva moving through turn number 3, up into turn number 4. We indicated earlier the verbal battle that is going on between this guy, Tom Sneva, and Mario Andretti, who is the leader of this race right now. Here's Tom Sneva's opinion.
Tom, after the Michigan race, harsh words about Mario's driving. Had a couple of weeks or a week to reflect on that and think back. In retrospect, where do you stand now?
Well, my thoughts haven't changed much. I thought, those driving techniques don't belong in a place like Michigan at 200 miles an hour. It's just that simple. We're supposed to be at the top of our field, and that level of professionalism doesn't belong at that place. I don't think he probably realized how close he came to getting himself and me in trouble, obviously, but it concerned me greatly, and it continues to concern me. I hope I don't have to, use those same type of techniques down the road to win races. That's not what racing's all about. You do the best you can and try to get the job done, but, that, in my mind, isn't what it takes, but if that's what a guy's going to have to do to stay up front, then unfortunately, some of the rest of these people might have to do the same thing if they're in that situation.
Tom Sneva's opinion on what happened at Michigan during the Michigan 500 a couple of weeks ago. Mario Andretti in car number 3, the leader of this race, of course, has differing opinions from Mr. Sneva. Mario continuing to lead this race now, although the interval is being reduced somewhat by Roberto Guerrero. The interval is now down to about 3 seconds, or just about 4 seconds, which is about 2 seconds closer than it was just a lap ago. So Roberto Guerrero, and you really got to wonder how he was performing and where he would be on the race course if he had not spun on turn number 1. Well, Mario Andretti passing, or trying to pass, one of the slower cars, of course, has a differing opinion on the Michigan 500 situation. Here is his opinion.
Well, I looked at the tapes myself even after I knew what I was doing, and I also said, well, maybe there's something that I missed, and I don't think I did anything that was, as you would say, dangerous for sure. All I did is defend myself, I think, in a very clever way, if I might say so myself, because he took the bait every time, so that's the last time I'm ever going to answer to him, actually. So, as I said, anybody else, I think, would have just taken that as that's the way it goes. He just wasn't able to beat me, and I sure didn't put him in a wall. I didn't squeeze him anywhere. All I did is just give him notice that he's just not going to get by that easy, and I gave him plenty plenty of warning going in every corner. It's just that he was taking the bait every corner without changing the style, and that's very poor for him, actually, not for me.
Mario Andretti, a three-time winner already this year in 1984, and is in the lead, looking for a win here at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We mentioned earlier it is a hot day. There's how hot it is, and it's also humid. We'll be back in just a moment. Right now, Mario Andretti leads the Provivi Field 200 here in Road America, but I'll tell you what, Roberto Guerrero is moving. The interval is less now than 2 seconds as Mario Andretti negotiates one of the corners here at Road America. We are into this race 11 laps. 11 laps have been completed out of 50. There is Andretti, and you can see Roberto Guerrero also moving on the race course.
Bob, it's an interesting interval, as we also understand from out on the course that Chris Neifel has dropped out of the race. It's an interesting interval. It's a 2-second interval, and as you mentioned, it's now just a little bit below 2 seconds. But one of the two drivers appears to be in control of this because it's stabilized. It's not getting any bigger, not getting any smaller.
Chris Neifel, one of the early outs. Here's Gary Lee.
Chris, sometimes in retrospect, you just soon stay at home, and this has not been a good weekend for the Primus crew.
No, that's true. We lost the motor Friday morning. Really didn't get out at all on Friday. Put a brand new one in, and on the start of the second lap, the thing literally exploded in the car. Too bad. I think I moved up 9 or 10 spots in the first lap and a half. So I think it could have been a good day, but it just didn't work out that way.
How were the track conditions?
The track seemed pretty good. It's hard to tell. The tires are real hard, and the first couple laps they're still cold, so you're sliding around a lot. But I think it's generally pretty good.
Obviously, you're tall enough. You've got a good vantage point. You can look over the entire crowd, right?
Yeah, it was a good crowd today.
Watch the rest of the race. Chris Neifel out.
We'll run down for you the top 10 here as Andretti leads, Guerrero running second. Danny Sullivan has moved into third spot, dropping Bobby Rahal back to fourth, and Al Holbert in car number 21 in Canada corner number 9 has slowed and come to a stop. Al Holbert from Warrington, Pennsylvania.
Interesting thing about this car, the front of the tub, by the way, came off of the Patrick Bedard crashed car from Indianapolis. That was one of the few salvageable pieces on Patrick's tub after the car disintegrated in that flip, the short chute in Indianapolis between turn 3 and 4, and the master craftsman of Indianapolis type race cars, Jackie Howerton, was able to take off the nose of the Patrick Bedard tub and affix it to the front of Al Holbert's car.
Another early out, veteran sprint car and midget driver, Steve Chassie.
With all your background in sprint car racing on the half-mile bull rings, this is one long racetrack.
Yes, but I enjoy it. I seem to run better on the long road courses. I ran better at Watkins Glen, and I run better here than the short, tight street courses. And
you were running well, but the engine didn't.
Yeah, we ran well. We weren't setting the world afire, but we were running our race strategy to just run a consistent pace and finish, and we picked up a vibration in the engine, and rather than destroy the engine, I shut it off.
That, of course, is the stock like Chevrolet.
Yes, it is.
355 sideline. Steve Chassie is now a spectator.
But Bobby did win one race this week, the fishing derby out in Lake Michigan. Oh, we've had a crash. It looks like it could be Michael Andretti.
Checking closely the identity on that car, it is Michael Andretti, and there's no real evidence that he has come in contact with the barrier, but he is at least stalled on the course as Bobby Rahal, who is running in fourth spot, is coming in for a stop. Now we have completed 13 laps. This is a little bit early for a routine stop. At least we had not expected stops this early. You can see Bobby Rahal trying to cool himself off, fanning himself. Now the crew finishes, and Rahal goes back out on the course.
Recall also, Bob, that Gary Lee's information was that Rahal would go past 17 laps before he would come in. They've had all sorts of fueling and fuel pickup problems the last couple of years. We all thought they had them solved, but could they be kicking up again? A pit stop at lap number 13, when you expected to go a minimum of 17, is much too early.
So Rahal moves out onto the course right in front of Al Unser Jr. and John Paul Jr. Once again down to Gary Lee.
Jim Truman, the car owner for Bobby Rahal, you said earlier about lap 19 for the stop. Why so early?
Well, actually, we came in earlier to check tires. This way we know we'll only have to change once near the end. It was just a decision we made. The fuel situation is going well. We decided to come in when it wasn't so crowded.
But with a stop this early, can you make the rest of the race on only one more stop?
Yeah, no problem at all.
All right, confident showing here in Bobby Rahal's stable.
Jim Truman, the owner of that operation with Bobby Rahal, and there is Michael Andretti. The corner workers have pushed his car to a safer area of the racetrack, but it's a frustrating moment for Michael Andretti, as he would like very much to get that car restarted and get back into the race. Well, the positions have changed. We were reviewing the top 10 before all the action began. Mario Andretti, and there he is, continues to lead with Roberto Guerrero, now 3.3 seconds behind. Danny Sullivan in third spot, 7 seconds behind, 7.2 seconds to be exact. Moving up into fourth spot now is going to be Rick Mears, since Bobby Rahal made the pit stop. Then we have Al Unser Sr., then number 17, Derek Daly, car 7, Al Unser Jr., and John Paul Jr. in car number 40. So 14 laps have been completed here at Road America as ESPN's Auto Racing 84 Series covers for you today the Provimi Field 200.
V division. Normally he's a charge in the Super V ranks, but he let it be known that he was going to go out today and try and pick up some valuable experience and try and finish the race. And he's turned in a very smooth performance, not only today, but all weekend long. Ari Luyendijk, the Holland driver, he said that driving the Indy cars was an interesting experience because he really appreciated how forgiving the little Super Vs are, that in the Indy cars you've got to be perfect all the way around, and you just can't manhandle them like you can with the Super Vs. Sometimes those little Super Vs respond so quickly to you with that interesting horsepower to weight ratio that they have. It makes you feel like Superman. You can get yourself into trouble real easily, but out also just as quickly.
Average speed of the race to this point is 119.1 miles an hour as Mario Andretti is setting the pace here. We continue to follow Ari Luyendijk around the course in the Provimi deal number 16.
Now, Ari started in 18th position in today's race. He actually qualified very easily, and he's right in the thick of it for the Super V Points Championship, the most recent race in the Super V Trail. As a matter of fact, he finished second to Chip Robinson, so he's right up there right now. He and Robinson and Ludwig Heimrad Jr. are the trio that will probably be the ones who decide the championship this year in the Volkswagen-powered class of open-wheel race cars.
Luyendijk moving through the carousel and on to the very high-speed backstretch here at Road America. I might take this opportunity to salute all of the technical people that have worked for the last week here at Road America. This is the most challenging telecast that we have ever been faced with, covering a 4-mile road course, and they have stretched about 20 miles of television cable to provide the pictures that you are seeing here at home today. So we appreciate the week-long work that has gone on by the technical crew of ESPN. Larry and I stroll in on Thursdays and say, way to go, guys. We sit up here. And
also, as a matter of fact, they said, meaning everybody, it couldn't be done. It was thought that you just couldn't really adequately cover a race at Elkhart Lake, but we get a picture all the way around, and I think some of the shots, particularly the low-speed shots, really give you an idea of how hot and spirited the competition is.
Safety vehicle is giving one of the cars a tow as Mario Andretti is running right behind Jose Le Garza in the number 55 Machinist Union car. And Jose is one of those drivers who has performed well in previous years as Mario Andretti takes the pit road course and is coming in for his first routine pit stop. Here he is, Mario Andretti, reaching to a halt, looking for his pit crew. There he finds it, stops the car, and the crew goes to work.
Well, Darrell Sapi and crew with Carl Haas looking over everybody's shoulders. They go to work on the left side rubber on that Lola. Remember, we told you near the top of the show that about 17 laps is probably about the predictable cutoff. If you go 17 laps, you multiply that times 3, you know that you can make this entire race on just 2 pit stops. Theoretically, Andretti could go 17 laps, stop, go to lap number 34 and stop, and then he can come home without one other brief in the action.
It was an 18.6-second pit stop, and second place Danny Sullivan was also in for a stop. So they come out onto the course in just about the same interval that they went in. Possibly Sullivan closing in now on Mario Andretti. As a matter of fact, Sullivan is looking for the opportunity to pass. Oh, and he got off the course there on the right with the right side tires for just a moment.
Well, Bob, I'm not certain that Sullivan did pit. If Danny is significantly faster than Mario, it might be that Mario has a full load of fuel and Sullivan is lightweight and has not stopped yet.
Here is Tom Steva making his first pit stop. And Danny Sullivan passes Mario Andretti.
Yeah, I think that Sullivan has not been in the pits as of yet, and that's the reason why he's so much quicker right now than Mario.
That is correct.
He should be coming in a lap or two.
So he, in essence, puts a lap here on Mario Andretti. However, well, now we get confirmation from the pit area and our pit producer that he has indeed made the pit stop. So Sullivan is in first spot, and in fact is pulling away now from Mario Andretti.
Well, now we get confirmation from about 3 sources that the entire world has opened up to us, but that's okay. That's what we're here to do as we look at Kevin Cogan and the Skull Bandit in the pit area. Sullivan really cooking after the pit stop, and Bob, you've got to be right. It's got to be tires, because he was significantly faster than Mario, and you saw the only change as far as setup went. There were no adjustments made to the wings or any adjustment of weight. It was simply tire change. So maybe the left side rubber that Mario got this time just was not the right perfect setup combination in terms of balance.
Through turn number 11, they'll complete 18 laps. By the way, the scoring line is right there in the middle of turn number 11. So although this right here is the start-finish line, they're actually scored at in the middle of turn number 11. And here is first and second, Danny Sullivan in the Lola and Mario Andretti in the Lola. Running in third spot unofficially is Bobby Rahal, who made the pit stop earlier but now is back up into third position. And unofficially in fourth at this point is Al Unser Sr.
Well, this is shades of Cleveland, Ohio. Remember when the 2 Lolos were out front? Of course, they didn't do badly at the Meadowlands either when they finished that way, but at Cleveland, and now that battle begins to shape up a little bit again as they work their way around Dick Simon, but Sullivan holds on, and Andretti closes up as they move into turn number 3. Now they're going to go uphill. They'll go underneath another one of the footbridges and then make a hard left.
Danny Sullivan and Mario Andretti. Rick Mears has moved into fourth spot now, putting Al Unser Sr. back to fifth spot. So the battle is indeed up front. At this point, 18 laps out of 50 have been completed with Sullivan and Mario Andretti running first and second. So we'll continue our live coverage from Road America and the Provimi Veal 200 after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome you back to Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And we've had a tremendous time the last 4 days here in this beautiful country of Wisconsin and have been treated very, very well by the Provimi Veal people who are sponsoring this race. And so far, it's been an exciting contest. We're 20 laps in with 30 laps to go. And then Mario Andretti and Danny Sullivan are running up front with Sullivan in the lead right now. Here's the 7th, 8th, and 9th position battle involving Tom Sneva, Derek Daly, and John Paul Jr., who's in his first IndyCar ride in a few races.
Yeah, John Paul wanted to prove to everybody that he could still do it. He looked upon this weekend as a very important one for him. He was very serious about getting in the ride. He wanted to do a good, steady job. He's looking forward to 1985. And there goes John Paul trying to get around Derek Daly, whom I believe is slowing because Daly has been running ahead of John Paul Jr. and Tom Sneva. And now in the last 3 corners on this 11-turn, 4-mile course, both John Paul Jr. and Tom Sneva have gotten around the guy who's racing for the home team here this week, the Provimi Veal colors. That's Derek Daly.
We have 14 cars running on the lead lap at this point. A couple of the cars that have lost a lap include Kevin Cogan, Scott Brayton, also Roberto Guerrero, who, by the way, is back in the race. And other cars that have been lapped include Michael Andretti, who also is back in the race, and the number 21 of Al Holman.
Now there's Tom Sneva. He's been the points leader since the second race of the year at Phoenix, which he won. He has held on to that points lead, and he really hasn't been threatened until now. Not that Andretti is right at his doorstep, but he's getting closer. He has a 21-point lead on Tom Sneva rather, has a 21-point lead on Mario Andretti. And if Mario were to clean house here today, that is to lead the most laps, plus win the race, he could pick up 21 points, plus the one that he got for fast qualifying, he would vault ahead of Tom Sneva in the standings. Sneva is also, interestingly enough, the leader in terms of the most laps led in 1984, and he is the leader in the most laps completed. He has completed about 80% of all the laps in competition. He has completed 1,145 laps, 376 of those he has led, and he has won about $290,000. He's number 3 on the hit parade in terms of dollars won.
7th spot, Tom Sneva. 8th, John Paul Jr., car number 40. This is the car that normally would be handled by Chip Ganassi. But those of you who are race fans know what happened to Chip Ganassi. He was involved in a horrifying crash at the Michigan 500, but we are very happy to report that Chip is doing fine. In fact, if you watched Speed Week last Thursday night, you know that we had an interview with him, and Chip is doing fine, hopes to be back in competition very soon. There is Derek Daly, the driver of car number 17. Derek had problems qualifying this weekend. On Friday, when they had the first qualifying session, he went out for a qualifying run, and they had 2 fourth gears in the car. They got to put a 5th gear in, so he did not qualify particularly well this weekend, but he's trying to move back up through the field here in the race. Moving through turn number 11. Derek Daly, one of the 2 drivers of the Provimi Veal team. As we indicated, they are a sponsor of the race here today, and here is a little bit more in detail this Provimi Veal team. The Provimi Veal racing team is indeed an international effort. Ari Lyondike, in his first IndyCar race, is from Holland. Derek Daly from Dublin, Ireland, is a former Formula One driver. But he started running Indy cars in 1983, and Derek Daly seems to have found a home here in the United States.
When I first came here, I decided to just give it a go for a couple of seasons, and now I have to admit that I like it more and more every day. I like the people here, I like the racing, I like the difference between oval track racing and road racing. I think there's so much more of a variety, and my arrival, luckily enough, has coincided with CART's rapid improvement, because their series for sure is becoming increasingly stronger every single day, to the point where European people now look strongly at the American oval track stroke CART series.
The Provimi Veal team seems to really be coming together. You had your best IndyCar finish ever earlier this year at Portland.
Gets better all the time. Unfortunately, we had a slight hiccup during this season when we made some personnel changes, and you know that makes it a little bit more difficult, because I think for people to be, or for teams to be successful, people must know each other, must know how to work together, must have confidence in each other. And we really started the 84 season after May, which for sure has us at a slight disadvantage, but I think we can be very consistent. I think with 8 races left, we can run right at the front, and I would certainly hope that we can come away with a couple of wins before the season's out.
Ari Lyondike began his career in 1972 in the European Formula V Series. He came to the U.S. in 1981 and finds racing here more competitive than in his native country.
I was sort of tired and finished with looking around for sponsors in Holland, because, you know, it's such a small country, and after a while you've just approached so many people, and, you know, hearing no all the time doesn't really, doesn't really give you a lot of confidence. It's not that they don't trust in you as a driver, they just don't see auto racing as a way to promote their product as they do in the States. So I I came to the States and had a few years with lesser equipment than I have now, poorer equipment. And I met Art Groeneveld, and that's how we, you know, met each other, and we worked out a deal last year.
So Team Provimi Veal with Derek Daly and Ari Leyendijk seek its first victory in the Provimi Veal 200. And right now, team driver Derek Daly in car number 17 is running in 9th position. We have 11 cars now on the lead lap. Unfortunately, one of the drivers out of the race is Al Holbert.
At one time was a competitor, then you became a hitchhiker trying to get back. It's a long walk back to the pit area.
Well, yeah, they gave me a ride, but we had a problem with a valve, I guess. It seemed to, it lost all power, and we were just running a low boost because of the fuel economy that's required here, and we weren't really going anywhere. We moved up a few spots. I don't know, I wasn't running hard.
You indicated, though, you had a very good racetrack to race on.
It was good. You know, there was some speculation as to the heat breaking up the racetrack, but one corner was a little bit testy, but otherwise it was quite good, and I think you're going to see that's going to allow for a real good race.
You made a comment that it's very physically taxing because of the hard braking here.
Normally what's the strain is your neck or your shoulder or something like that, but here you brake so hard so often from such high speed, and you have to hold your foot on the brake for such a long period of time at any time you apply the brake. You know, it really starts to play on your leg, at least mine.
Al Holbert out of car 21, CRC Chemicals entry.
But continuing to run strong on the course, Mario Andretti in car number 3. He is 1.6 seconds behind Danny Sullivan, who leads this race. Third spot is Bobby Rahal, then Rick Mears and Al Unser Sr. We'll be back with more from Road America.
You know, a lot of racers on the Grand National Trail. And there's Danny Sullivan. Before we get back to the Grand National story, there's Danny Sullivan coming out of turn number 3, almost getting into trouble there. Jose Garza following him. Now, here's another shot of him coming down the moraine sweep. Sullivan coming downhill. He has to brake hard. He'll make a left-hand corner, about 180 miles an hour in the radar gun. There he is coming through this time, much more smooth, even stays on the track. No gravel this time as Danny Sullivan gets through this lap much more smoothly. Bob, I was about to say that a lot of the tracks in the Grand National Trail are exciting, but Michigan International Speedway always seems to take it one step further. Very exciting racetrack for Grand National stock cars.
Well, it is because of the high banking. There's always a lot of drafting and choo-choo trains that go on at Michigan. It's one of my favorite races of the entire year, and it's coming up a week from today here on ESPN. Sullivan's lead is 4 seconds on Mario Andretti as Mario Andretti now moves through the carousel area of the race course, headed down the backstretch. There is the leader, Danny Sullivan, car number 30.
That backstretch right there is the section of the racetrack that very few spectators ever see. It's got big earthen embankments on both sides of it, and it's completely covered with trees. It's almost like a tunnel when you drive down there in a car. It's an exciting and fast part of the course, and those of you at home are seeing something that very few people who are here in person have an opportunity to view. The backstretch here at the 4 miles of Road America.
Estimated crowd here this weekend, 60,000, but as we indicated, they have been treated to some tremendous racing. A Super B race yesterday and a Trans Am race earlier today, which was a rather interesting race. You will see coverage of it on ESPN at a later date. We will tell you, however, that Richard Spenard, who is kind of filling in for David Hobbs, Spenard, the Atlee Corvette, won the race after Bob Lobenberg had a problem late. Well, again, we'll have highlights of that race on Speed Week this Thursday at 7:30. There's the interval between first and second. Danny Sullivan braking and slowing for corner number 3. Threw it very nicely this time onto the rumble stripes, but not off of the racetrack. And Mario Andretti continuing to pursue him. Third place still belongs to Bobby Rahal. Fourth is Rick Mears, and fifth is Al Unser Sr., but here is the third place car in for another stop.
Car owner, you said earlier it may have been a pickup problem. This would seem to indicate that there is a problem somewhere.
Yeah. there's no reason we can't go several more laps. When it bobbles, we've got to come in. It looked like we had to make 2 more stops all of a sudden anyway, so we got 1 to go. The problem will be at the tail end if we can't get it all out. We seem to have a problem.
Obviously a pickup problem in car number 5, Bobby Rahal.
Boy, it's just phenomenal when problems start jumping up and nagging an individual team. And you know this is one of the better organized teams on the trail. They made a tremendous splash as a rookie team last year on the CART PPG trail. The team has the potential of winning almost every time out. He looked like he was really in a position, for instance, to win the Michigan 500 the last race when he was involved in an unfortunate incident when Al Hobart plowed into him from behind. But this is a problem that has plagued this team. Fuel line problems, fueling problems, fuel pickup problems, and it's a shame because Bobby Rahal is at his best on one of these road courses.
And there is Paul Newman, who competed in the Trans Am race early today, but he's the owner of this car that Mario Andretti is currently running in second position. There are close calls throughout the event, and here is one involving Sullivan and Dick Simon.
Well, Danny's trying to find the line to get around Dick Simon, and Dick Simon just stays in the normal racing line. It's a judgment call when you're a couple of race drivers. Normally, if you're getting lapped by the leader, oh, you can see how close it was, just barely fractions of an inch. Normally, if you're being passed by the leader, you're supposed to yield. But there's no such thing necessarily as a move-over flag. In the back 40 of a road course, you're pretty much on your own, and Danny Sullivan really had to work to get around Dick Simon, who incidentally is here with a brand new crew chief this week. Charlie Lang, a guy who used to work on Trans Am cars, is moved over to the Dick Simon crew. Not only do they have a new crew chief, but also they've adjusted the color of the car a little bit. It used to be a real dark olive drab. They call it a gray, but you can add an olive color to it. Now it's definitely a deep midnight blue, matched up with the red, of course.
Well, let's review what's occurred to this point as we are just past the halfway point. Mario Andretti led the first few laps until he made a pit stop. And then Danny Sullivan came blasting out of the pits past Mario, and Sullivan has held on to the lead since that time. Running in third spot is now Rick Mears, fourth is Allenzer Sr., and fifth is John Paul Jr. Cars out of the race include Ed Pym, who got off the course on the very first lap in turn number 3. Also out, Chris Neifel, Steve Chassis, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., and Al Hobart. Ludwig Heimrath Jr., another one of those, making their first IndyCar race here at Road America.
Daryl Sapi is the crew chief on Mario Andretti. He is right now in radio communications with his driver, but the communications now are breaking up. There may be a problem with the pop-off valve. Mario is losing some straightaway speed, apparently losing some horsepower, so they may be fighting a faulty pop-off valve in car number 3, the Budweiser Lolo.
Well, you can see the interval there between first and second, and Andretti is indeed keeping Sullivan in sight, but Sullivan able to maintain that advantage to this point. There is Roberto Guerrero again, and he ran so well in the very early stages of the race, but had a problem and may have run out of fuel. However, he is back in competition.
Now, Bob ran down for you a couple of seconds ago as we go back up front and look at the leader, Danny Sullivan, those who have dropped out of the race. Here's a list of those who came here this weekend and did not qualify for the event. Stan Fox, the converted midget driver, was the fastest of the non-qualifiers. He lacked about 2 seconds, however, from getting into the field. Bill Tempero moved over to the Jet Engineering March, number 64. The Chevy block car did not get into the field. Dale Coyne was here in his Racing Eagle, number 45, the Dale Coyne Racing Eagle. Kenny Atchison moved over to the California Cooler March, normally driven by Gary Bettenhausen. Both Gary and Kenny attempted to qualify this week, but failed, and Randy Lewis in the Agfa McRae Machinist March. It's an 83 chassis. Randy, of course, from Hillsborough, California, a former Can-Am racer. He, too, failed to qualify this weekend.
Well, you can see how the first and second place cars are now running right together on the racetrack as they try to pass Scott Brayton here in corner number 3. Sullivan will move to the inside, uphill toward turn number 4. Here is Rick Mears, meanwhile, who is doing very well. One of those cagey veterans who is looking good here on the road course. And Gordon Johncock comes out of the pits. By the way, this is Gordon Johncock's 48th birthday. Happy birthday to Gordy.
Well, car number 9 behind Roberto Guerrero as we watch. Rick Mears is reported off course one more time, and Dennis Firestone has left the cockpit of car number 36. They are looking for a relief driver, and there is Rick Mears. He's had a solid day, and remember all of those road course wins that we have seen on ESPN by this gentleman. Right now, Rick is running in 4th place, and he's really had one of the more consistent runs of the day. If you're ever looking for a heady driver and a guy who seems to have the best feel for what the proper rhythm and pacing, particularly the top-end speed of a race on a hot day on a road course is, look at this guy. You always watch Rick Mears if he's still in it and still running competitively when you're halfway through the race on a road course. Just how good is the position that Rick Mears is in? Can Mario Andretti and Danny Sullivan keep up the pace? And will Bobby Rahal's fueling problems keep him from finishing in the top 3? It's likely. Rahal probably is no longer a threat for victory, so now you begin to think about Rick Mears. And there is Rahal, and you can see how close Rick Mears is to Bobby Rahal as we go back up front and look at Sullivan putting a lap on Al Unser Jr.
And Al Unser Jr. is running in 9th spot, so now there are 8 cars on the lead lap. When Bobby Rahal came in last time, we had assumed he would lose a lap, or at least lose the position at least, and he did not. Bobby Rahal continues to run 3rd with Mears 4th, Al Unser Sr. in 5th spot. 6th, John Paul Jr. 7th is Tom Sneva. 8th is Jeff Brabham, and 9th spot, just lapped, was Al Unser Jr. So Danny Sullivan continues to lead here with Mario Andretti right behind him. We'll be right back.
Al, among all those characteristics that it takes to make a great race driver, can you pick out one?
Well, I think there's about 3 of them. You gotta drive smooth, you gotta be consistent, and you gotta drive it hard.
I think aggressiveness is the key. You have to be able to think on your toes, but aggressiveness really is the main ingredient.
I think it has to be smarts, because there's a lot of smarts involved, and with smarts come experience.
Good team preparation.
I think a person that hates to lose. Desire. I think burning desire to win, to excel, is really the basis of a successful race driver.
Interesting comments there from father and son. They essentially said the same thing.
Yeah, you had the feeling they had dinner together a couple of times, you know.
31 laps have been completed out of a 50-lap race, as that man right there, Danny Sullivan, is the leader. There are now 6 cars on the lead lap as Sullivan continues to burn up the course. Here is John Paul Jr., who is running in 6th spot into the pits.
Yeah, we should see a series of pit stops now. Between laps 34 and 35 would be what you expect to be the routine pit stops. The book would say that these cars would go 17 or 18 laps on this track and a load of fuel. So John Paul comes in on lap number 32. Probably they're just about right on schedule. He is running in 6th position right now, and there is the pit area of the leader, Danny Sullivan. Looks like he'll be on schedule too. The next stop in this train's trip is station number 30.
Danny Sullivan right now is approaching turn number 3. Now Dick Ferguson is now driving that number 36, which was started by Dennis Firestone, a relief driver on this hot summer afternoon in the east central portion of Wisconsin. The humidity has just been tremendous here this weekend. We wake up every morning and there is a heavy fog that is over these hills and valleys in this area of the country. It burns off at mid-afternoon, but still there is a tremendous amount of humidity in the air. There is 2nd place Mario Andretti. Now they are approaching now the carousel. So still, Danny Sullivan has a little bit of racetrack to negotiate before he makes his scheduled pit stop, and they are ready for him on pit road.
If you're not familiar with where Road America is, just about everybody knows where Milwaukee is and Green Bay. By the way, the Packers played last night. About midway between Green Bay and Milwaukee, but a few miles west of those 2 cities, and certainly not on Lake Michigan. Rolling countrysides, lots of sunflowers around here, lots of cattle and livestock out in the field. You know, they're famous for their dairy products up here, and it really is a very beautiful area of the country to come to, particularly if you want to go to a racetrack. It was a tremendous weekend here. There was racing all weekend long.
Out of turn number 11, making a slight right turn on the pit road, is the leader of the Provimi Field 200. Mario Andretti stays on the track. Here's Danny Sullivan stop.
He is in. Now, keep in mind, they did not change tires the first stop. This will be his second and last stop. They are not changing tires. They are going the entire distance with the same 4 tires. They're trying to top off the 40-gallon fuel cell. They're having trouble with the runoff. It is a long pit stop. Now over 23, 24 seconds. They're still fighting. And now he is underway. 27.5 seconds. A long pit stop for only fuel.
And he's proceeding very slowly, Gary, out of the pit area. Now the car catches, and he has power in that car, but it was a slow pit stop and a slow re-entry onto the course for Danny Sullivan. That could mean serious trouble and could mean a second place for Sullivan in this race. He is, however, still in second place as he was able to make the stop and not lose any more than 1 position.
Well, I'll tell you, depending on how good the G2 information is, down in the Budweiser pit with Mario Andretti at the controls of that piece of equipment, they may be able to take a little bit of the pressure off their pit stop. Andretti will be coming in now in a couple of laps, and if the spies were out, or if they have some idea as to how long Sullivan did spend in the pit area, they can be just a little more casual than what they normally are in their pit stop, because Sullivan was in an inordinate amount of time for just a routine pit stop for fuel. Incidentally, Guerrero, and there's Rick Mears back on the track, and look at the heat spewing forth from the back of that race car. You get an idea how warm it is here. It really is, Bob.
That's a very descriptive shot there as Tom Sneva is unbuckling and climbing out of that race car. Tom was running in 7th spot, but has stalled on the race course and is climbing out of that Texaco Star March.
Well, here sets up that points battle now. If Andretti can win this race, I think Sneva has dropped out so early that he does run the risk of not getting any points. And here comes Andretti into the pits. Let's watch this pit stop.
Mario Andretti making the stop. Don't forget, Sullivan was in for 26 seconds. We'll try to get a comparison here. Let's go down to Gary.
Well, this time they're changing 3 tires. The rear, the left front, topping off the 40 gallons of fuel. So Andretti will have fresh rubber. Keep in mind, Danny Sullivan is on the rubber he started this race with. They spray some water. Still trying to get the car down. The car still up on jack, down and away.
Now he goes back onto the race course at a much faster speed than Danny Sullivan did. See if they can pick up Sullivan. Where is he?
Bob, we've got a report that Sullivan may be coming into the pits again. He goes by this time, but the latest report from the radio is that maybe they were having a conversation about the possibility of Danny making an extra pit stop.
Well, Sullivan was at full speed as he passed by the start-finish line here. And he now moves through turn number 2. There's Danny Sullivan right there following Gordon Johncock. Moving through the corner, Sullivan trying to make up that valuable time that he lost during his second pit stop. But certainly a credit to the radial tires that these guys are using here, as Sullivan is still on the original rubber.
Well, there is Danny Sullivan, the Domino's Pizza Hotwood, number 30, Team Shearson. They brought this Lola out in the middle of May. They got it into the field at the Indianapolis 500. Looked like they were in a position to be very competitive when he was involved in that chain reaction incident when Patrick Bedard crashed. But boy, since the circuit has moved to the road courses, Sullivan has really been tough.
There's a 4th place car of Al Unser Sr. into the pits. Fuel being put in that car, and they're not changing tires either. Just fuel. Away he goes. Al Unser Sr. from Albuquerque, New Mexico, the 1983 PPG champion, scoots back onto the race course.
Well, back to that points battle between Sneva and Andretti. Sneva is definitely in jeopardy because the points only pay back 12 positions. The first place, as we mentioned a couple of times, is 20 points, and there is Andretti. Right now, he is the leader. If this race were to end, he'd be the new points leader for the season. Only 11 other positions pay.
34 laps have been completed. That leaves us 16 more to go. And Mario Andretti has moved in the lead at the Provimeville 200. We'll be back in a moment.
Saturday, the IHO. It's not often during a kart championship race I get to leave the pit area, but right now we're in the Provimeville hospitality tent. And how often at a racetrack do you see silver and crystal? This is Art Grunefeld, the president, and Provimeville has become synonymous with racing in recent years, and now you're becoming synonymous with hospitality. This is a great outing.
Yeah, I hope it gets also synonymous with Veal and the promotion of Veal, because that's what it's all about. That we are promoting our product in kind of an unusual way through racing, and at the same time it can be a lot of fun and a lot of frustration too.
Here's a guy that's giving your product some good promotion right here, Tony Bettenhausen, who I'm sure would like to be on the race course today, but when we get back to oval driving, we'll see Tony back in the cockpit, right?
Right, at Pocono in 2 weeks we'll be running.
Enjoying the hospitality and the food of the sponsor?
Yes, I wouldn't normally eat during a race like this, but this is a very good, nice veal.
I think I'll have me a quick snack of Provimi veal and head back to the pit area.
There's plenty left.
Let's go racing.
And while you were in the Provimi veal tent, Gary, there was a lot of activity on the racetrack, and this spells it all for Danny Sullivan. His car has come to a rest between turns 10 and 11, and there was a small fire there at the fuel venting area. You remember last time Danny was in, it was a long pit stop because they were having trouble in the fuel venting area. Small fire in the car, nothing of any significance. Danny climbs out, and he is out of the race. There's Tom Sneva taking a picture of having his picture taken. Hello, Tom. We're sorry you're out of the race. We'll see you again on ESPN real soon. But Mario Andretti has now a 53.1-second lead on Bobby Rahal. Those two cars are the only cars on the lead lap. And Bobby Rahal is into the pits. Running third, a lap down, is Allenser Sr. Fourth is Rick Mears, and fifth is John Paul Jr.
And you know what? Bobby Rahal is pitting on lap 38. He pitted on lap 26. You know that's a possibility that he'll have to pit one more time. On paper, it looks like he'll just barely be able to go the distance, but the possibility also does loom that it's still not going to be enough. Bobby may have to struggle through one of the pit stops. Gives you an idea how fast he is going. He is able to hold on to second position or third position when all the other people are still out there every time he pits.
Absolutely right. He may set a record here for most number of pit stops and still holding his second position. You know, this fuel pickup problem, one of the things that they're having a problem with existed more on the Indy cars several years ago when the fuel was at the side of the driver and the cars were set up for oval tracks only. When they would go around a right-hand turn, the fuel would simply not pick up, but that has changed now because of the location of the fuel in the race car. Gordon John Cox celebrating birthday number 48 today.
Well, Gordy is also celebrating his 250th career start in an Indy car as he runs right. Happy birthday, Gordy John Cox. He runs right now in the number 9 position in the race. Gordy John Cox in the STP sponsor 20. Those familiar John Cox petty blue colors. I know it looks a lot like petty blue, but interestingly enough, those of you who have been following Indy racing for quite a number of years will recall that Gordy John Cox started putting that color on his helmet before Richard Petty and he began to be identified as one another as team members on the STP team. So when you're up north, oh, and look at Gordy sliding out of that corner. My goodness, he came out of that turn and almost lost control. Gordy John Cox is still out there. He's got that foot, mangled up though it is, still in the throttle.
As we go down to Gary Lee, we express our sentiments to Danny Sullivan.
Right now, we're taking a look at the scorched back of Danny's helmet, and obviously these drivers wear precautionary suits just in case a fire does break out. Exactly what was the problem, Danny?
Well, I was following Gordy, ran a little wide down one of the corners over a bump, and bang, the whole thing just burst into flames. And it got very hot around the back, in the back of my head, so I pulled off the first safe plates I could and jumped out.
Turn around for a second. Let's show the back of the suit. That's why these guys wear these suits, and obviously Danny is okay, but very disappointed to be a spectator.
The winner at Cleveland, his first IndyCar win, Danny Sullivan out of the race after leading for several laps. Kevin Cogan has taken over the Teo Bobby ride as Teo has decided to go back to Formula One. It was a great opportunity for Kevin Cogan in the Skoal Bandit.
Yeah, it really is. Here is both a car and a driver and a team that over the last 3 seasons at one time or another, each of those elements, team, car, and driver, has been very fast, and that's particularly very fast on a lot of road courses, and the combination of those 3 elements and all the laps that they have led on the road courses looks to be pretty potent for the future. They haven't got out of the starting blocks yet. They'd hope to do it this weekend, but it ain't going to be, Joe.
Kevin finished 8th in the first race in this car at Michigan, and right now Kevin Cogan is not in the top 20 at this point. He's being shown in, yes, he is. Well, he's being shown in 12th position, 2 laps down. Kevin Cogan, 12th position, 2 laps down.
They've also purchased a Lola, so this team could be formidable before the season is over. They plan on running the Lola on the road courses and maybe on the short ovals too. It has arrived. It's in the shop. It came in on Thursday, so this is the last time probably we'll see this particular race car. This is a March on a road course in 1984.
Third jewel of auto racing's Triple Crown, the next race for these PPG Indy cars 2 weeks from today at Pocono International Raceway. Mario Andretti leads at Road America. 40 laps have been completed, 10 to go. Bobby Rahal still second, with Al Unser Sr. running third. Will return in a moment.
It looked like Rick Mears slowing on the course. It was a yellow car. That could be another one of our top 5 drivers out of this one.
Once again, there is Dick Ferguson, now the driver of car number 36, filling in for Dennis Firestone.
Well, there you see Dick Ferguson moving over as Michael Andretti, who lost several laps earlier. Remember, Michael sat on the side of the road.
Well, Larry had an opportunity to take a look at one of the ways that these drivers keep cool on a day like this.
In recent years, we've done a lot to make the race cars feel comfortable on the racetrack, and now we're beginning to concentrate on the drivers. For Derek Daly, it starts up front. Here's a reservoir that has a special magic potion on the inside that only Derek knows the combination in the formula to. There's also a little motor attached to it. That's the motor out of a Datsun pickup truck. The motor is attached to a tube that goes back to the cockpit and through a little opening in the front of the helmet. When Derek wants a drink of that special magic potion, all he does is flip a switch and it surges into the helmet. There's also another opening on his helmet. That's the cool hat, and it circulates cool air through the helmet, also activated by a switch on the instrument panel. All this is right at his fingertips, pretty easily identified also, too. One of them says hat, and the other says, well, it's not really that, I don't think.
Well, let's hope not. That's all I can say. Al Unser Jr. is out there, but you can see him pointing to Bobby Rahal to go around him. Al is slowing down out there on the racetrack. Al won his first IndyCar race at Portland on ESPN. He's got his visor up to, at least at some portions of the racetrack, has the visor up to get some fresh air into his helmet.
Well, I think attrition is beginning to really set in a serious way as far as the equipment goes, Bob. There's a lot of little things that can go wrong. You know, the turbochargers are still just a little temperamental. The brakes can go away very quickly and very easily. We heard earlier from Al Hobart, they take a lot of abuse on a course like this, and even though it's only a 200-mile race, a lot of heavy braking, and with this heat, well above 100 degrees since the drop of the green flag, there could be a lot of things going on.
Al Unser Jr. was involved in the Chip Ganassi accident, of course, at Michigan. And Al, at first report, had suffered a broken leg, but he did not, and as a matter of fact, is well enough to drive here in the race today. We mentioned that Chip Ganassi is recuperating at his parents' home in Pittsburgh. He is expected to be here this weekend. We haven't seen him, so if you are watching Chip in Pittsburgh, we hope that you continue to progress rapidly. And Pancho Carter, who was also involved in a very horrendous accident at Michigan, is here and is okay. So we'll return to Road America Elkhart Lake in just a moment with the Provimi Veal 200. Back at Road America, we've had 3 leaders in the race: Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan, and now Mario Andretti again. Here are the cars out of the race. Ed Pym in 98, also Chris Neifel, Steve Chassie, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., Al Holbert, Dick Ferguson, who is back in the race as a relief driver for Dennis Firestone. Danny Sullivan is out of the race. So is Tom Sneva and Derek Daly. Sneva watching the race from one of our camera positions here at Road America. Well, Tom isn't going to score any points in this race. Can Andretti take the points lead? With more on that, here's Gary Lee.
Well, Bob, yes, indeed he can. If Mario wins this race, he'll have the Clean Sweep Award. He'll have 1 point for the pole, 1 point for leading the most laps, and 20 points for winning the race. That would give him a total of 94 points to Tom Sneva's 93. We could have a new leader in the points race after this event.
Well, Gary, if Mario Andretti continues to set the pace that he has set for the last several laps, he's going to win this race rather easily. His advantage over Bobby Rahal, running in second spot, is now 78 seconds, and you figure a lap here at Road America is somewhere in the vicinity of
running about 2 minutes. Yeah, a little slower than 2 minutes now at racing speed. Andretti's last lap, as a matter of fact, happened to be about 2 minutes and 5 seconds. He qualified about 10 seconds faster than that. So I think Mario is pacing himself at this point. And what a nice position to be in when you're pacing yourself and running away with a victory.
He just put another lap on Scott Drayton there in that orange car, number 37. Scott is shown in 13th position, now 3 laps down. In 12th spot, 2 laps down, is Roberto Guerrero. 11th is Kevin Cogan. 10th spot is Howdy Holmes. In 9th is Ari Lyondike, who is doing well. 8th spot belongs to the birthday boy Gordon Johncock. 7th is Jose Legarza. 6th is John Paul Jr. In 5th spot is Jeff Brabham. 4th is Rick Mears. 3rd is Al Unser Sr. 2nd, Bobby Rahal, and here the leader, Mario Andretti. So we'll be back with more live coverage on ESPN's Auto Racing 84 from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Road America. Provimi Veal 200 with 45 laps completed, 5 more to go, 116.8 miles an hour. A great show this afternoon from Jeff Brabham. He's running 5th.
Yeah, comment about Jeff in a second. That last shot coming down the backstretch. There's a lot of dirt up on the racetrack there. Somebody has gotten off pretty hard. Back to Jeff Brabham. He's the son, of course, of 3-time world champion Jack Brabham. And just like the son, I mean the big one that comes up every morning, this guy on a road course, he comes up every time you have a road course. Listen to the finishes that Jeff Brabham has had this year. 2nd at Long Beach, 2nd at Portland, 3rd at the Meadowlands, and 8th at Cleveland. And he's in the top 5 again, or top 10 rather, again here this weekend at Road America. Jeff Brabham is having an absolutely phenomenal year on the road courses. He knows how to drive a car. He knows how to not abuse the clutch and the brake. He is a very skilled student in all the basics of driving a race car, and I really think that is a significant factor, that Brabham knows how to take care of the race car. He finishes every one of these races on a road course despite the conditions.
Jeff Brabham now makes his home in Tustin, California. He is 32 years of age. In the Craco car stereo march, running in 5th position, although he is a lap down to the leader, Mario Andretti.
And even though the Craco team, his teammate being Michael Andretti, has never won in 1984, matter of fact, they've yet to win a race on the IndyCar Trail, as he puts a lap on Dick Ferguson. This is really one of their better seasons.
And the other Provimi car, Derek Daly is out of the race, but Ari Lyondike is in 8th spot, and a great performance for his very first IndyCar race.
Well, the thing about Ari, Bob, is he's doing exactly what he told everybody was going to do. There's that dirt I commented about the last time, too. You can see Ari getting off on the high side there of the kink and kicking it up. But Ari has really shown us that he has the ability to be a good star in this league. That is one of the trademarks of a good athlete in almost any type of sport. If you can announce what you're going to do beforehand, just like Babe Ruth pointing to the stands out in center field, and then deliver, the people know that you are in control of the situation, control of your environment, and it really gives you a nice base from which to work. I think Lyondike has the potential, being in this league a long time.
This is only a one-race commitment with the Provimi team, at least right now, but perhaps with his performance today, there will be more IndyCar races for Ari Lyondike. So we have less now than 3 laps to go. Can Mario Andretti hang on for the win? We'll be back to answer that in just a moment from Road America in Elkhart Lake. Back at Road America, 2 laps remaining in this race. Mario Andretti leads. Bobby Rahal is second. Al Unser Sr. third. Rick Mears fourth. And Jeff Brabham is in 5th spot. And Al Unser Sr. is turning in his best performance in 1984 since the Indy 500, where he finished also in 3rd spot. Al Sr. moving down the backstretch in car number 1, running 3rd position.
Al Unser Sr., man who one of the very few people to win the Triple Crown of automobile racing. He did that a number of years ago, and he's a guy who has been one of the most consistent performers truly in the history of the sport, and I think there are very few teams who would turn down an opportunity to have Al Unser Sr. drive for him. He had a better year last year than what he's having this year. He was very consistent a year ago. The consistency has gone away just a touch in 1984. Here, however, is the second-place car of Bobby Rahal. This Red Roof team very well represented here this week. Rahal, of course, the flagship carrier of that company. Al Hobart also with associate sponsor from Red Roof Inns, as well as Ed Kim, who started this race, but unfortunately was involved in a shunt on lap number 1. Wally Dallenbach Jr., Willie T. Ribbs out of the Trans Am cars, both carry Red Roof Inn sponsorship, and Roger Penske Jr. with a full boat sponsorship in the Super V. So there were a lot of Red Roof Inn signs around the Road America racetrack this weekend, and Jim Truman and True Sports and his people putting together quite a fine stable of cars.
And the white flag comes out from Mario Andretti. He has 4 miles to go, 1 trip around this Road America course, and he'll win the Provimi Veal 200. We already thank the technical crew of ESPN for the performance this weekend. There's some other people we would like to thank. Our helicopter shots that you have seen throughout the telecast, provided by pilot Don Warner. Also, we'd like to thank the Provimi Veal people, Ott Grunenfeld and his public relations people who have treated us extremely well this weekend, and Dick Miller, of course, the public relations director for Provimi Veal, and the general manager of this racetrack, Tom Watson, who has also provided us some very, very nice things this weekend. Thanks to all of you. We have had a great time here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Well, Mario taking a little wide coming through turn number 4. Now he's in the Hurry Downs area, going downhill, kind of snaking toward the carousel coming up, which is one of the fastest corners on this racetrack.
Mario Andretti will win his 2nd race in a row and his 4th this year. He was the winner in the very first race at Long Beach, also won at the Meadowlands on the road course, and also won the Michigan 500 just a couple of weeks ago. This will be his 4th victory of the season and will indeed move him into the points lead over Tom Sneeden. By the way, Andretti is the defending champion of this race, so it'll be 2 in a row here at Road America.
And it will be the first time since 1969, the year in which he won the Indianapolis 500, that Mario Andretti has been the points leader at the mid-season point of the points trail. Almost hard to imagine that a man with such skills who has done so many great things behind the wheel of a race car. This is the first time he has led the points this late in the season since 1969. Here he comes for checker, Bob.
Mario Andretti from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, moves uphill, goes under the bridge, and takes the checkered flag as the winner of the Provimi Veal 200. Mario Andretti has won. Bobby Rahal will finish in 2nd position. Mario has the hand raised already, waving to the crowd. Into turn number 1, Andretti has won again on the PPG IndyCar Trail.
Jose Garza going by. Jose is right now running in 7th position. Here comes Mario Andretti taking his victory cool-off lap. Of course, I don't know if you're going to be able to get cool off very much today with the temperature above 100 degrees. I mean, it's warm enough in the cockpits at going 150 to 180 miles per hour. It must be terribly uncomfortable in there at about 60 miles per hour. Rick Mears still out on the course competitively, trying to come home in the top 10. Matter of fact, Rick trying to hold out for 4th position if he can get all the way around. There's Scotty Brayton. He was out there all day today.
Bobby Rahal is about to complete the race and finish in 2nd position. Rahal moving out of turn number 11 now, up the hill, headed for the finish line. Bobby Rahal finishes 2nd, and Al Unser Sr. will unofficially finish in 3rd position. You talked about the great competitiveness that we have had in the first half of the year. The second half proves to be even more exciting, and ESPN will have live coverage of several of the races, including the one that on Labor Day weekend at Mid-Ohio, in Canada, at Michigan International, at Phoenix, and at Laguna Seca. Back at Road America in a moment. Back back at Elkhart Lake, and we have indeed had a change of leadership in points during this Provimeville 200. Mario Andretti, when the updated standings, has 94 points. Tom Sneva second with 93. Then Rick Mears, Jeff Rabham, and Michael Andretti.
Well, now you begin to look at Rick Mears as you go back and look at Tom Sneva's abandoned race car. You know, it's a very unusual sight. There are always tens of people, hordes of people hovering around an Indianapolis car, except when they break down during a race and the lonely steed sits out in the back 40 somewhere, quiet and alone. You know, Rick Mears now moves up to third place in points as we look at Mario headed for victory lane. All of a sudden, he becomes a factor in this championship race, Bob.
Mario Andretti is right beneath our broadcast position here as they are moving the car into victory lane. Gary Lee is waiting on Mario to arrive there so we can have a word with this Nazareth, Pennsylvania driver on his performance this afternoon and his moving into the lead in the point standings.
He's working on another streak. You know, he's been the fast qualifier 5 times in a row. Fast qualifier every time, by the way, in the road courses this year. That's all 5 of them. Overall, I said 6 quick times. If he gets 2 more quick times in a row, he will break Bobby Unser's 12-year-old record of 6 QTs in a row, which was set when Bobby was running the Dan Gurney Olsonite Eagle. So Andretti has really picked up steam here in the mid part of the 1984 season, and as the British would say, he's just bloody fast right now.
Mario Andretti has the helmet off now as we get ready for the winter interview. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
A big sip for refreshment. Congratulations first on the race, and congratulations on now taking the points lead.
Well, it was just a perfect weekend. That's all I can say. Seemed like everything just worked out the way we had hoped. In the middle of the race there, after the first stop, we got caught a little short there. I think I probably slowed down a little more and Sullivan got in the lead, but I wasn't really too worried because it looked like I could follow him with no problem. So we just did everything right the second time, and from there on, I think it would have been tough.
At one point, I think the crew was somewhat concerned that there may have been a pop-off valve problem. You may have lost some horsepower. Did you feel that from the cockpit?
No, I was backing down the horsepower at will, actually, and before the first stop, about 4 laps, I backed it down, and then when I rejoined with full tanks, I forgot to put it up for a couple of laps, and that was only while I was losing ground. But I got it all back together.
It's easy to admit that after you've won, right?
Yeah, of course.
And of course, this reminds us of last season when the Lola was somewhat cantankerous. You were patient. Perseverance has paid off.
Well, I think it was a little bit of perseverance because I had confidence that the team was going to pull me through in the next stop. And all I had to do was just hang on to what I had and make sure that I don't give anything away. And as it turned out, by the time we made our last stop, we had a 9-second lead, and from there on, unless we had problems, it would have been no problem for us.
And I recall this is about your 3rd clean sweep award of the year. You had it out at Long Beach by starting on the pole, leading the most laps and winning it. The same at the Meadowlands, and again here, our congratulations.
Well, Electrolux is one of our major sponsors, and since they're the ones that are implementing this award, we might as well keep the money at home.
You'll always take the money.
Of course.
Congratulations, Mario Andretti.
Mario Andretti, the winner of the Provimeville 200. You know, Larry, as we look at Tom Sneva, you and I were at a midget race about 4 miles down the road here Friday night, and Mario was one of those there, and it just reminded me that this guy who was won the world championship and is the hottest thing on the IndyCar circuit still remembers his roots and goes back to the dirt tracks and watches the competitors in the midgets and in the sprint cars. So we'll be back with more post-race activity at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, as Mario Andretti has won the Provimeville 200. Finishing 74.7 seconds behind Mario Andretti, a guy who persevered all day through many, many problems. Bobby Rahal, here's Gary Lee.
Bobby, it had to be a case of deja vu. You've had the fuel pickup problem before.
Well, yeah, it was not very much fun for me. I'm sorry I got sweating. I can't see, but it wasn't very much fun for me. You know, I guess a flapper valve again went or something, but sort of a non-event as far as I was concerned.
It's a frustrating feeling in the cockpit because you're doing your part, the rest of the car is doing the part, but there's only one part that's not cooperating.
Yeah, you know, the crew did a good job, and you know, everything, the car ran well, it just wouldn't pick the fuel up, and what are you going to do?
We've had some very hot, oppressive days before. How does this race compare to, say, Cleveland last year?
Oh, I didn't think it was as bad. I really wasn't hot. The race went pretty quickly as far as I was concerned.
You were too disappointed to think about being hot.
I was just hoping we'd make it.
Bobby Rahal still has a smile.
Second place finisher today, Bobby Rahal. Third was Al Unser Sr. Fourth was Rick Mears, and fifth was the number 18 of Jeff Brabham. So the ceremonies continue down in Victory Lane as Mario Andretti is receiving the trophies. We'll be right back. Back at Elkhart Lake, where Mario Andretti has won the Provimobile 200. We'll review the top 10 here and show you that Bobby Rahal finished in second spot. Al Unser Sr. was third, Rick Mears fourth, and Jeff Brabham was fifth. Finishing sixth was John Paul Jr. Seventh, Jose Lee Garza. Eighth was Ari Leyendijk. Ninth, Gordon Johncock, and 10th was Kevin Kogan. You know, we seem to be in a pattern here in IndyCar racing. A few years ago, the chassis to have was a Penske, and everybody bought one. And then the March started winning races, and everybody bought a March. And now the Lolas are beginning to win.
Well, let's first reflect back to the Michigan 500, the last race in the trail. We trashed about $750,000 worth of Marches in that race. A lot of guys have picked up new Marches to replace those that were crashed at Michigan. But you begin to wonder, Bob, yeah, you're right. How many Lolas do you think they can manufacture between now and next May at the Indianapolis 500? I got a feeling that I think we're going to find out.
A little bit of wildlife here at Elkhart Lake, and we're trying to get an interview with the third place finisher, Al Unser, and we will be back possibly with it in just a moment.
Live at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Al, you finally got to spray some champagne. It's been a while, but third place isn't that bad.
No, third's better than fourth. We run good all day, not as good as the other two, but considering the way things have been going this season, I'm real happy. Everything went good, and the Miller car run good all day and never had any bad happenings, so we finished.
You were on top at the end of last season, but as you indicated, this season has really been a struggle.
Well, you know, it's always easy to say you're on top or whatever, but it's sure easier to come down. Things just don't go right, and the brakes don't come your way. This is what happens, but last year things went my way.
Nice to have you back up at the top. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll be back with some final thoughts from Elkhart Lake.
Mario Andretti, his second victory in a row on the CART PBG IndyCar World Series. There were only 2 leaders. Besides Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan led a few laps. There were 3 lead changes. The average speed of the race, 116.40 miles an hour, breaking the old record by about 7 miles an hour. And the time of the race, 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 8 seconds.
It's been a great weekend of racing up here in Wisconsin, Bob. We've seen a lot of racing. We saw Joe Corrigan win that Badgett midget race on Friday. And incidentally, Michael Andretti, John Paul Jr., and Stan Fox also attended there. Congratulations to Alain Prost, who won the Formula One race today. And the other SCCA winners of the weekend, Richard Spinard in the Trans Am. That's a race that will be seen later on ESPN. And Chip Robinson asserted himself in the points lead of the Super V Series by winning the main event in that division this weekend.
Well, it's been a hot afternoon for Gary Lee, who has worked down in the sunshine all day. What are your final thoughts, Gary?
Well, right now the season is starting to fall into place for Mario Andretti and the Budweiser Lola crew. They realized that Tom Sneva had been very consistent on the road courses with finishes in the top 5, 6, 7 positions, and that was keeping him up on top in the point standings. But they knew once they got the Lola working that Andretti could go well on the road courses and the ovals and perhaps take the points lead, and that's exactly what he's done this afternoon.
And the next race, of course, is a 500-mile race at Pocono, Pennsylvania, 2 weeks from today. And a week from today, the ESPN crew will be at the Champion Spark Plug 400 on the high banks of Michigan International Speedway Our live coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern Time. And again, we have a big week coming up on Speed Week at 7:30 on Thursday nights. A recap of all the major racing activities this past weekend. The Provimi Veal 200 has been brought to you by Pontiac. Test drive a new Pontiac at your Pontiac dealer, because at Pontiac, we build excitement. By Mario Andretti. For Gary Lee, who did an outstanding job covering the pit area for us today, and from Larry Newber, this is Bob Jenkins saying so long, everyone. We'll see you next week in Michigan. Again, our congratulations to the winner, Mario Andretti.
Fly